This week on Arizona Illustrated, working for water.
The water in the desert is amazing, and it really is drawing me in to want to protect these areas.
A survivor shares her story.
He threatened that if I ever told anybody, they could go look for my body in Mexico, because that would be where they would find me.
And haunted happenings in Bisbee.
Well, I grew up in a haunted house, and so I was kind of always interested in ghosts and ghost stories.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Water flows in the Santa Cruz River ended in the 1940s, and unless it has rained, flowing water in Arizona's urban rivers and washes is a rare sight. Now, a group of Tucson residents is hoping to change all that by channeling and redirecting rising water tables.
I fell in love with the Sonoran Desert when I moved here 35 years ago. The water in the desert is amazing, and it really is drawing me in to want to protect these areas. In the Sonoran Desert, it's estimated that 90% of all the animals out there have to have some sort of surface water to survive out in the desert. I'm Trevor Hare. I am the River Restoration Biologist for Watershed Management Group.
Watershed Management Group is a local nonprofit organization, and we're really working to connect people to the local environment. And a big part of that here in Tucson is understanding our watershed. The River Run Network is a program where we're working with the community to restore Tucson's heritage of flowing creeks and rivers. So about 60 years ago, we still had regularly flowing creeks and rivers in Tucson, and due to groundwater pumping and kind of mismanagement of our water resources, we've really lost that flow over the years, but it's possible to get it back. If we kind of make that our goal and vision as a community, each of us can play a part in doing that. So we're talking about restoring Sabino and Tanque Verde creeks, the Pantano and Richo River, all the way to the Santa Cruz River. It really needs to be a community effort. So each of us at our homes, you know, how we use water, how we deal with the rain on our property instead of letting it shed off our property, collecting it, letting it soak into the ground. Eventually that becomes groundwater recharge, and that does feed into these rivers.
If we look at our watershed map of Christmas Wash, what do you notice about how water flows? The purpose behind the creek walks is to really reconnect residents with some local gems that are in their watershed, in their neighborhood even, and kind of getting them to understand what is, what the beauty, the importance, the function, or even the potential for beauty, importance, and function, depending on what the state of the wash, the creek is. This is a desert hackberry. Typically a mid-story species under the native overstory of Palo Verdes, mesquites. It's very dense, so it's great for habitat, it's great for food. The desert hackberry is even great as a trail snack. If it were ripe, be able to eat that. Our long-term vision is restoring Tucson's springs, creeks, and rivers. And we call it our 50-year vision. However, certain sections, areas of the basin, it's not going to take 50 years to restore. We could restore in just a matter of a few years or a decade if we set the conditions for restoration now.
My background is urban planning and also commercial real estate, so I've always been intrigued by geography and the lay of the land. And Tucson's been my home for 35 years, and I feel it's important to give something back and try and help out the best I can, especially with such an important issue as water.
I heard about this through a friend at the university, and I'm here because I'm very curious about the plan for restoring water to these washes. I care because I think a lot about the future. I have a young child. I'm from Tucson, and I'm hoping that he'll stay in the desert as well.
With population growth, with diminishing water resources, with changing climate, with growing urban centers, all of these are definitely pressures that we're working against, and that's why time is of the essence.
We are in Davidson Canyon, right at the confluence of Cienega Creek, right behind me. It's protected by Pima County. It is a Cienega Creek Natural Preserve. I discovered this in about 1989, 90, or something like that. Been working out in the western desert on reptiles and amphibian work, and coming back into town on long weekends, and so I wanted to take my kids someplace natural. Saw this on the map, saw that it still had water in here, and we started coming down so the kids could splash around in these small pools here. Always brings back memories. There's always something new to see. It's always beautiful down here. And of course, it's always changing. These creek and river systems are always changing, so it's kind of neat to watch that change over time. The Santa Cruz River looked like this, the Rito River looked like this, parts of the Tanca Verde, parts of Pantano all look like this, parts of the Canada del Oro all had areas that supported these large trees, this riparian vegetation, and we've lost a large majority of that. So this is a special place. It's a reference site where we can bring people and say, this is what we can see in the future if we all just work together.
The national discussion on sexual harassment, assault, and rape continues around kitchen tables and water coolers. It also rings in the halls of Congress, the Supreme Court, and the White House. The Me Too movement has given voice to many who've been afraid to come forward for fear of retribution or public shame or for just not being believed. We were able to spend time with one survivor willing to share her story. A warning, this story includes graphic descriptions that may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. This is Danny McFarland, you remember me? Yeah, what's up? I'm just calling just to let you know, I guess, more or less what my life has been like. Due to having been molested by you guys as a kid. Okay. You know, at 5, 6, 7, 8. I was just too young, I guess, to handle it all.
By the time I was in kindergarten, I'd already been sexually abused by 3 different people. I was raped when I was 3 years old, and they all made me promise never to tell anybody. One of them told me that if I did, that my parents weren't going to love me anymore, that I was like officially unlovable, and they would disown me and kick me out on the streets. Another one threatened to kill my dog. Nobody knew. It was all just my little secret, or my big secret. I grew up in Nogales, Arizona. I never really felt like I fit in. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere because I was putting on this mask of trying to pretend to be somebody I wasn't. This is definitely During the dark years, I'm trying to figure out how old I was. I was trying to pretend that I wasn't a survivor, trying to pretend that I wasn't dealing with trauma, trying to pretend that I was normal, and I never felt normal.
Scars deep, and it scars through every vein of my body, and there's no hiding it. I mean, I wish you guys would have burned me so I had physical scars, because that'd be easier to cope with than the emotional. I mean, I look at myself in the mirror, and, you know, it's just a constant memory of what you guys did to me.
Any of my traumas have been so impacting. They completely shifted my life. Every single one of them sent me in a different direction, off course of where I was headed. When I got into high school, I started hanging out with some people. He invited me out one night. He would find me after school and kind of signal very sternly, like, I'm giving you a ride home. I didn't want to do anything that night. I said no. I'd get in the car and he would have other friends with them, and then it was expected that I would take care of whoever he brought along as well. I was terrified, so I got like backed into a corner and had to give in. He threatened that if I ever told anybody, they could go look for my body in Mexico, because that would be where they would find me. So there was no talking about it then either. I graduated early because I was just done and I wanted to get out of that town. And I moved out to Philly and was lonely. I didn't know a single soul out there. On my weekends, I had nothing to do. I'd run up and go visit a friend of the family that lived in Long Island. And then I woke up in the middle of the night to him having sex with me. I thought I had something that said "abuse me" on my forehead. A week after, I was ready to jump off of a bridge, and someone had called the police. They showed up. They took me to a hospital that night. A month later, I attempted to overdose. My stomach pumped, and 4 more attempts. So I can't even kill myself right. Emotionally, I was starting to crack. I could feel that I was becoming less stable, and I felt like I needed to come home.
The lady that gave this to me said she got it in Nogales.
Really?
Yeah.
I met Robin after I'd moved back from Philly. As soon as we met each other, we just kind of hit it off. She definitely kept me in the light a whole lot longer. Well, I'm glad you said yes to coming today. This is a lot. It feels more complete.
It was an automatic yes. Everywhere we went, I just remember people would, look at us or want to hang out with us and ask us out, and it was just fun. It was just a really good time. Up until that weekend that we decided to go to Nogales. And then we parted ways for about 16 years.
You feel it like in your body and it's starting to hit you, and you're like, oh yeah, there's no turning back now.
Yeah. Point of no return. There it is. There it is. We started out at a restaurant where we were just drinking margaritas, and we decided to cross the street over to Cucarachas. We were not feeling well. And it would be much more than having, the alcohol effect. And I didn't even realize at the time that we most likely had been roofied. Robin, I write this letter with absolutely no expectations. I'm so sorry for any and all of the pain I caused you. I'm sorry I shut down after Mexico. I had completely blocked the memories of the second part of that night. The employee came up behind me and pulled my pants down. As he plunged into me from behind, I began to puke. Fortunately, that got him to back off. You became a trigger for all the pain. And in that, in turn, triggered memories of all the unhealed sexual trauma from my past. Things got so incredibly dark for me. I spent many nights on the floor of my bedroom on River Road with a gun in my mouth. And I couldn't pull the trigger.
I feel sadness right now. I'm not angry. I just have a heavy heart. I pushed her as far away as I could. I didn't want her to be as impacted by my death because I was sure I was actually going to die. On the final attempt, I felt this presence and I heard this voice say, "You can't leave yet. You have work to do."
Hello? This is Danielle.
And then I thought about some of the other people who were still living that had assaulted me, and I realized that they too could still be doing this to other kids. I decided to call them up and confront them about it and record my conversations.
And, I've been through tons and tons of therapy.
And I took the tapes to the police.
Sorry about it. Completely sorry. I accept your apology.
That wasn't enough evidence to prosecute. So I decided at that point that I had to find a new way to reach people. I had to go through hell to find my way out, to find my way to the other side, to healing. And I needed to create a bridge so that I could help other people find their way too. That day on the red couch, I stopped looking at myself as a victim. And I realized that I'm a survivor.
It was a strange sensation to feel. Very proud of her, but also just devastated that this person I loved so much had been through that, and I didn't even know. So you just don't know until you're in it.
The reality is that the wound is still there. It's always going to be there. And it's terrifying to go into these things alone. It really helps to have somebody who can hold your hand and walk you through the steps to face your demons and take back your power. Can you turn around for me, please? I'm healing, and I am always healing. And maybe that's part of what being a healer is that as you help others and they heal, it heals you too.
Fall is in the air. The nights are cooler, the days are shorter, and black cats are on the prowl. All Hallows Eve is just around the corner, and for some, Bisbee is the place to be for haunted happenings and ghostly gatherings.
We're in Bisbee, Arizona, most haunted town in America.
Is it really the most haunted town in America?
According to me.
I always tell people that Bisbee was a mining town. We mostly mined copper. Copper is a conductor of electricity. Ghosts are energy. That's why I believe it's an active location.
There is almost an electric current here that sometimes I feel, and I see the town on it.
Every other building was a bar. There were brothels. Of course, you're going to get people that are going to get drunk and stupid and shoot each other.
All these buildings are original. They not just hold the charm, they hold a certain energy of people that once walked this earth. So we've done some research here. We realized that in the year 1919, Houdini came to Bisbee, Arizona, and he performed at a tiny little theater called the Lyric Theater. We found out that that same Saturday night, he spent the night here at the Copper Queen. This is why we've officially unveiled the Houdini Room. They say the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest in the month of October. So in channeling the spirit of Houdini, I have some very old shackles. And I'm going to have Renee do the honors of shackling my wrists together as tight as you can. He's the godfather of magicians, really. Here I'm a full-time magician doing magic shows every single weekend. So that to me is really what's just, like it was fate that I ended up here. Melt right off my wrists, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Anybody else like a flashlight?
It's a different town at night than versus the day.
Feel free to take as many photographs as you like. We have had what we believe are ghosts photographed on the tour.
I run the old Bisbee ghost tour.
So are you guys ready? Wow.
I am one of the tour guides, so I'm the one that guides the guests around Bisbee and tells them the ghost stories and the folklore regarding the ghosts which haunt the buildings.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me in the Bisbee Seance Room. Bisbee is considered one of the most haunted towns in America, and there is a reason for this. You're well aware of the copper, gold, and silver that were extracted from the mines. What most people do not realize, that this entire town was built on top of one of the single largest quartz crystal mineral deposits anywhere in the world. And quartz crystal in large quantities acts as a battery for letting certain energies come and go as they please.
Now the Grand is the only hotel where I have heard stories of people running out in the middle of the night never to return because of the paranormal activity. She got scared, went behind the bar to start cleaning glasses when she felt Jeremiah massaging her back. My type of ghost.
We try to tie in all the stories to the history of the buildings.
The other embalming room is in the shop that's vacant next door. Coincidence? I think not.
So we don't just tell ghost stories, we try to kind of link them all together, like a quilt.
I think we are so complementary to each other. You're both getting a haunted history lesson, but in different venues. First spot on our little tour is none other than the Copper Queen. There are 52 rooms, 16 different ghosts. The very first magic trick that was shown to me was close-up magic. You know, I saw it right in front of my eyes. My grandfather was my biggest inspiration in my life. I just was awestruck. I want to give everyone, adults and children, that same experience. And to this day, when I get upset, I sense his presence. Either that or I'm crazy.
We decided to research this park. And what we found out was that this park used to be... Cemetery! Very good. This used to be the Bisbee Cemetery.
I was kind of always interested in ghosts and ghost stories, and when I was in college, I took a fairy tale and folklore class, and we spent a couple weeks talking about ghost stories and how it's a type of folklore, and that just led me to collecting ghost stories, and when I moved to Bisbee, it's just the perfect storm.
Hold it up just like that. See, he would take the red. What's crazy is where he puts it. It's perfect. I mean, it's this intimate experience. I think it's a lost art. You know, I've been to stage magic shows and large parlor shows. Take those 3 cards and simply put them back in the middle of your pile. There's something about a show that's just for 10 people. By any chance, does anyone have a match with the piece that they put underneath their leg?
I do. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. What? I do.
You know what's amazing?
It's the devil.
No, it's the first time it actually worked.
When a lot of people come up to me and they're like, well, how can you prove that there's a ghost? I go, well, how can you prove there's not? I'm more interested in giving people who visit Bisbee a good time, something to tell their friends about, to bring them back to Bisbee.
And Mr. Bones says, I was diagnosed with a hollow weenie.
I want to leave you with the final thoughts. We are merely spirits having a human experience, not humans having a spiritual experience. And those deceased are always with us. Thank you for joining me in the Bisbee Seance Room.
Magic. The resurgence of downtown Tucson is hard to miss, bustling with new hotels, restaurants, music venues. But there are a few landmarks that have stood the test of time and tragedy, like the Pioneer Hotel. Here's a look back at 1970.
On a crisp December evening in 1970, the Pioneer Hotel in downtown Tucson buzzed with shoppers, guests, and hundreds gathered for holiday parties. Then someone smelled smoke.
Pioneer Hotel, engine 1, 2, 3.
An early morning fire has swept through the downtown Pioneer Hotel, leaving at least 28 persons dead and injuring 24 more, some critically. The fire, believed to be the worst tragedy in Tucson's modern history, broke out on the 4th floor shortly after midnight and spread rapidly down to the 3rd floor and up to the 9th floor through an open stairway, catching many of the victims before they had a chance to flee.
We heard the people screaming and the sheets hanging out of the window, and people, many are begging and somebody to come and help them. We saw several people jump from the window.
In the end, 29 people died, and 27 were injured, including several firefighters. Among the dead, a mother and her 5 children, and the hotel's original owners, Harold and Peggy Steinfeld. The 16-year-old convicted of setting the blaze is still serving a life sentence, all the while insisting he's innocent.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.